Genocide, after all, is an exercise in community building. In 1994, Rwanda was regarded, in much of the rest of the world, as the exemplary instance of the chaos and anarchy associated with collapsed states. In fact, the genocide was a product of order, authoritarianism, decades of modern political theorizing and indoctrination, and one of the most meticulously administered states in history. These are the words of Philip Govrich in his book, We Wish to Inform You that tomorrow we will be killed with our families. Hello everyone, my name is Nicole and I will be commenting on the statement Genocide as an exercise in community building with reference to the Holocaust during the Second World War, the Rwandan genocide in 1994, and the fire situation in Sudan in 2002-2003. The texts I have used for primary reference are in the description bar below. The term genocide was formulated during the Second World War by Polish jurist Raphael Lemkin, who defined the term to describe German war crimes that were aimed at destroying nations. For him, this implied the return of an enlightened people to barbarism. Later, in 1948, the United Nations passed the Genocide Convention, thus making genocide a crime under international law. The resulting definition was narrower and defined genocide as any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethical, or racial or religious group. As such, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, or forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. But genocide is not just something that stems from a pure, irrational, uncontrollable hatred that takes place elsewhere and between people who are very different from us. That is certainly not all there is to it. Genocide is normally a form of social control, a response to a behavior defined as deviant. That is, like some other forms of violence, it is usually moralistic rather than predatory. It can be regarded as a one-sided war, where the perpetrator expresses moral grievances against the targeted ethnic group. Donald Black's theories of social control explains the handling of conflicts with their social geometry, that is, with the social characteristics of those involved in the conflict, such as whether they are wealthy or poor, whether they are intimates or strangers. The geometry of the case predicts how it can be handled. This theory can be applied to several genocides throughout history and is capable of ordering much of the known variation in genocide, such as when and where it occurs, how severe it is, and who participates. In addition to this, genocide is also closely related to the idea of a nation-state along with a national ethnos. This idea also carries social uncertainty in regard to who constitutes the us and the them, in terms of resources and their allocation. It is this anxiety that builds up and eventually results in lethal measures like genocide. For instance, Jews were said to be clannish, aloof, and even distant, as well as clever, greedy, dishonest, and striving just for power and success. Set to overwork, they were considered parasites who lived off the labor of others. Jews were even accused of disloyalty to the nation and also blamed for Germany's defeat in the First World War. It is said that Jewish doctors harmed their non-Jewish patients and that Jews molested and murdered children. They were considered aesthetically repulsive, genetic misfits, sexual predators, and most importantly, a threat to racial purity. Ultimately, they were painted as wicked creatures who belonged to an anti-race outside of the hierarchy of human races, and it was believed that they formed a conspiratorial body set on ruining and then dominating the rest of mankind. 50 years later, in 1994, every Tutsi in Rwanda was accused of being part of the invading rebel army. the Rwandan Project Front, which consisted primarily of members of the Tutsi minority. Exterminating this enemy within was therefore framed as a justifiable act of self-defense. Like the Jews, they too were accused of being clannish and having a disproportionate share of place in secondary and higher education and having infiltrated the aspects of Rwandan society, such as the economy, the church, and political parties. Tutsi women were said to be physically appealing and to have been preferred by foreign and Hutu men, and it was believed that they used their beauty to seduce and manipulate these men. There were also grievances over other events in Burundi, such as the 1993 assassination of Burundi's Hutu president by a Tutsi army officer and subsequent massacres of Hutus. Tutsis were considered to be alien to the Rwandan society. They had invaded and conquered Hutu centuries ago, and it is said that they now wish to restore Tutsi monarchy and once again rule over Hutus, or perhaps even eliminate them through genocide. And once again, in the Darfur situation, Arab militants considered the non-Arabs inferior and called them slaves. In many of the attacks, aggressors have made references to the victims' African origins and alleged inferiority with statements like, "Kill the slaves," or "This is the last day for blacks." As in the Rwandan case, targets were also held collectively responsible for the actions of rebels, even though most of those targeted had little or no connection with rebel activity. As in the Holocaust and the Rwandan genocide, the perpetrators also accused their targets of attempted genocide. I don't know about you, but the thread of commonality between the above three examples is just too hard to ignore. There is fear and uncertainty surrounding the other, and a very desperate need to exert one's ethnic superiority as a homogenized group. Thus, I feel that Philip Gouverinch was right in stating that genocide, after all, is an exercise in community building. Needless to say, it is a rather unfortunate situation, but unless we as individuals and nations make a conscious effort to stop trying to establish a concrete unified identity, the world as we know it seems to be headed in a downward spiral.